And so that was the last one. The only other thing that's in here is I did find um, a. I'm just double checking here to make sure there's not something I'm missing. But the only other thing that I found was actually me analyzing a song, the structure of a song, which I remembered. It's so weird. I thought about that. Well, no, I think I did think about this recently, and the fact that I did it and how I don't have to write shit like this down anymore. So it was from July 27th, 2014, and I'm analyzing the structure of Carry Me On by the Brooks Brothers. I'm not going to go through it. Just listen to the song if you want. I'll link it. Um, I'm trying to think of some final thoughts. Like I said, it's just interesting to me seeing what kinds of things have changed and what things have not at all. Um, I'm relatively self-aware enough at this point to know, like, okay, well, these things, I know what things are going to be different. Like, my religion stuff has changed. It's hard because I was in a relationship with Gwendolyn at this time, and that relationship I like sort of like faked positivity that wasn't intrinsic to me because she was a really positive person. Almost I'm not saying this in a critical way, but almost in like an unrealistic way, like very idealistic, I guess, which is great. But I have this really bad tendency of adopting like characteristics of the person that I'm with when I get into a relationship, and that's pretty like not good. And so it's hard to navigate sometimes what things like whatever I know to be true about myself is always like really low at like this base level. I'm not necessarily like thinking about it all the time, but it's always there. But when I get into a relationship, it's like this high level thinking that's like always like what I'm thinking about actively. But then at the end of the day, it's like after I get out of a relationship, I'm back to this like materialism, if you want to call it that. That's like a darker word for it, but it's just my way of like setting goals. And music. Like, and you can see it with some of these. They're fucking hilarious to me. This one where it just goes, just hoping for plenty of opportunities to talk with her and love on her smiling face. And then right after that, it says, I think it's kind of cool how the HS7 sit on the mopeds surrounding the Yamaha logo. That's so fucking funny to me. That's awesome. And what was the other one? There's another one that was so good. There's like the second one. Where is it? It was so funny. This is the third one. I'm talking about hanging out with Gwendolyn. And then I'd almost rather not go to Glenda's so we can spend more time together, but I guess I'd be fine either way if we can just hang out and stuff. I think it's interesting the feeling I get when I physically hold the different pieces of gear in my hands. That's just so funny to me because I think part of it's because there's been times in relationships where I feel like I don't realize it till it's way too late, but I like realize I'm like faking myself and who I am in some ways. Like some things I'm like, okay, no, this is cool. I'm learning a lot. And other ways I'm like, this is just not who I am. And it's just so funny how I'll put like this thing and then it just goes straight back fucking hard line into what I've always been interested in, like every day of my life. You know, not every day of my life, but like for a long time, it's been like the same sort of track of stuff. Um, and so I just think that's funny because I still struggle with like who I am. I guess everyone does. And when you're like 20 something like I am, it's like it feels like it's always changing. Um, but there's things that don't change. And seeing this is helpful for that because it's like, well, I loved that shit now. I love it. Or I loved that shit then. I love that shit now. And, you know, for better or for worse, some of it's more complicated than just an absolute love for music. Some of it's, I like looking at stuff more than using it. That's like a weird problem that I have. And when I grow up, it's like, how do I deal with that? How do I turn that into actual me doing things again? Because there was a period of time, like a long time, where I didn't love it anymore. And I'm starting to feel it more now where I'm like just sitting in front of my computer, like just hammering in to like a thing. And I'm like, I don't even know if I like doing this, but I'm obsessing with it. So I'm just going to keep going with it. Um, I liked seeing that it was a dream. That's interesting because some people like to analyze dreams, you know, and make there's some kind of meaning to it, I'm sure. But it was more just that I thought it was interesting. It's funny seeing things that I used to want and how some of it hasn't changed. Like, so when I was looking at birthday possibilities, well, it was funny seeing how it's cool having actual dates for when I got things. Like now I have like the actual date. I mean, I can find a receipt, but I have like my thoughts for when I got Ableton Live 9 standard for the first time. That's cool to me. Um, but for my birthday, I wrote like the things that I wanted were Ableton Live 9 standard, Silent, which was a synth that I used a lot of the time, and I had it illegally. I still don't have it now. I don't even know if I would really want it now because like there's so much shit that's probably better, but maybe. Um, M570. That's supposed to be M507, but that's a mouse or 705. And then K750. I have that keyboard. It's not with me right now, but it's a Solar Logitech keyboard that I had for a long time. Apparently, fucking 6 or 7 years, and it's a piece of garbage now. So now we know why, because it's old as fuck. The keys are sticking and shit. The solar battery in it died, so I had to put a normal CR30 for 2032 or whatever in there. That's not supposed to go in there because it's supposed to be rechargeable. Anyway, that's a bunch of random shit. So I still have that, and then it says acoustic treatment. I still think about wanting to do stuff with acoustic treatment. Like I've got a red panel here. This is from Blakely, or his name's not Blakely, obviously, but thank you, Blakely. He gave me a few panels that have been so helpful. And so but I still think about like wanting to construct some with Andrew and build some for us so we can use them for different ways and have like just a reserve for a shit ton of panels. I don't have the space for that, but I want to do it really bad. Yeah, I mean it's just so cool because I talk a lot. Like I don't think I like journaling that much. There's times in my life where I feel like I need to, but it's just interesting how when I am talking a lot, it's about like I'm seeing my friends, and that lasts for like a paragraph, and then I'll write for like a page or more about my HS7s or some other gear. That's why I'm getting new monitors, but I'm not selling these things because they're fucking so special to me. Especially the old one that I've had. One of them is dated to 2013. It's old. It's very old. But they've been with me for so long. Even if I think there's better stuff out now that I want, it's like they've been with me for a long time, and so I really like them. But I'm still kind of that way now. I can talk. I've learned this was not easy, but I learned how to talk about like a lot of different things, like not small talk, but talk in depth about specific topics over the course of maybe the past 4 years or so. And so that's changed, but I wouldn't want to write about it. But I could write, and I still want, and it's something I still want to do, like about music in different ways that it fascinates me and interests me. Like an example for something now, maybe it's not something as gear related, but it would be like, the construction of a drop for an EDM song that's sound design based, if we were to put it in steps, could be something like experimentation, discovery, and then exploitation / implementation. So that's referring to, so experimentation is messing around with a synth or some sound or some effect or something like that, or obviously a bunch of stuff is what it ends up being. And you end up creating a sound and being like, wow, this sounds cool. Then you can label that sound, and that's your discovery. You're just like, wow, this is really interesting. You can use it immediately in a song, or what a lot of people do is the separating of the sound design process and the musical composition construction process. And you would just label it and put it for later. But then let's say you're working on a song and you're like, what was that sound I made earlier? That would be sick for this part or for this like element of a drop. And if it's the main thing of a drop, then it's you exploiting it and you're like, this is like the thing for the song. Or if it's just a little sound, you're implementing it into that song. And so that's what I think of as far as the sound design, sort of, they're like steps for it. And I have to think of like ways that to take something that I look at a lot of the details and kind of like look back. Anyway, that's an example of now the type of stuff I think about. But then there's like I was saying, I was talking about acoustic treatment and stuff, and in ways that hasn't changed either. Like I said, the room that I live in a 1-bedroom apartment now, and both of the rooms are quite large, but the larger room is like my living room kitchen thing. Is just a big room, and the HVAC gets loud and the fridge gets loud, and it makes working on music very annoying. And so that's something that I still think about, is like, oh, but how can I make it work? And if I put stuff back in the other room, it's like, well, now I want to like make the bed work in here. And I remember not liking that so much. And so it's like there's always like fucking a million scales, and I got to figure out how to juggle them perfectly. And then even like I remember when I got the setup that I did now, where I moved shit into this room, I was like, this is sick, and I still like it. But part of me is like, due to the problems that I'm having, still contemplating like, well, you know, it's this never-ending thing. But anyway, I actually really enjoyed reading this. It was a lot shorter than I thought it would be, but I'm not surprised because, like I said, I don't like writing, and I'm not surprised to see that it was, cut short, and then after a while it just completely fell off because that's not how I want to spend my time every day, writing, unless it's something important to me. But even then, I want to be working on music or thinking about something or laughing or doing something that's important to me, which is pretty much just something musically and doing something new and sometimes editing videos and stuff. Anyway, that was it. If you listen to this, thank you. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you. I'm Matt. Bye.